So example 1, a simple random sample of 144 students from a university was selected to estimate the average ACT score of all students from this university. The average for the sample was found to be 25.4 with a sample standard deviation of 2.90. Part A, construct a 95% confidence interval for the average ACT score from students from this university, and then Part B is to interpret this interval. So the first three conditions appear to be in good order. The fourth condition is also satisfied because the sample size is greater than or equal to 30, so we're not required to verify the nearly normal condition. So here's our formula, x bar plus or minus t star, the t statistic, times s over root n. So plug it into our formula, we get 25.4 plus or minus t star times 2.90 over root 144. Now we need to determine the t statistic. Now we could have done that earlier, I just didn't want to overwhelm you with all the different values. So everything else I think is pretty straightforward. Now let's look up this t star. And I'll first show you on the table, and then I'll show you how to do this on the calculator. So on the table, we're going to get our t distribution critical value table. We're going to look at 95% confidence, which is 0.025 in the tail, right? We have 5% left in the tail, so 5% divided by 2 is 2.5% or 0.025. And the closest thing we have in the table provided here is 100, so we're going to go with that, 1.984. If we use the calculator, press the distribution menu and go to inverse t. Now, if you have a TID3, you won't have this feature here, so you'll need to use the table. The 84 should have this. We put in our area of 0.025 and degrees of freedom. Remember, degrees of freedom is 144 minus 1. We can do that in our head, right? 143. And you'll get 1.97. And we can ignore the negative sign here. We just take the positive part for the test statistic. Notice this is really close to the value we got in the table. Why it's not exact? Well, we used degrees of freedom of 100. So plug in this value in. I'm going to use the calculator version, the 1.977. We're going to get a margin of error of 0.48. So we have 25.4 plus or minus 0.48. Interpreting the confidence intervals for means is pretty close to how we interpreted them for proportions. We're 95% confident that the true mean ACT score is between 24.9 and 25.9. Now I want to show you how we can use the calculator to compute the interval for us. Step 1, press Stat, scroll over to Tests, and select T interval. So select Stats instead of Data. Now if we had the raw data, we'd select Data. This is one that you would put into L1 or L2, one of the lists. We're given the summary statistics. We're given the sample mean, sample standard deviation, N, and we know the confidence interval. So we're going to select Stats and put all that in. So X bar is 25.4, X is 2.9, N is 144, and we're selecting 95 for the confidence level. And I believe you can put in 95 or 0.95, either one, it'll take it. Press compute or calculate, and we have 24.9 to 25.9, the same as we obtained by hand. Now using StatCrunch, step 1, stats, tstat, one sample with summary. Again, you would choose with data if we actually had the data, the raw data in there. And we'll do one later on where we have to do that. Input the summary statistics and choose 95% for the confidence level. Press compute, and we get exactly the same interval we obtained both by hand and with the TI. 24.9 for the lower limit, 25.9 for the upper limit.